That incident on Keanu Reeves's first-class flight shocked everyone. But the real question is, how did his trained dog Luna feel about it? Luna was restless. She fidgeted, sniffed the air, and fixed her gaze on the young girl. Keanu noticed, but he didn't understand just yet. The young girl's hands began to tremble. Her breathing grew erratic. While the other passengers remained oblivious, Luna sprang into action. In an instant, she leapt from her seat. That's when Keanu realized the truth. But the most shocking part was yet to come. Keanu Reeves's next move. Hey, I see you haven't subscribed yet, and that makes me sad. Subscribe now and turn on notifications, because this is just the beginning. Los Angeles International Airport's terminal was bathed in golden light from the setting sun. In the waiting lounge, a man hidden beneath the shadow of his black hoodie sat quietly. As he ran his hands through soft fur, the dog in his lap, Luna, lifted her head uneasily. Keanu Reeves. His eyes were lost in the distance. Yet any careful observer would notice that he was keenly aware of every movement around him. Luna's vest, emblazoned with Tibi de Steck, made it clear she wasn't an ordinary dog. A few meters away, a man in a navy suit was speaking harshly into his phone. "If this deal isn't wrapped up by tomorrow, all of you will be fired." After ending the call, he scanned the lounge. His gaze landed on Keanu and Luna, and he snorted. Now, they're letting dogs into first class? What a disgrace. Keanu noticed the disdain in his eyes, but didn't respond. Instead, he continued to stroke Luna's fur, whispering, "Calm down, girl. The journey's going to be long." Suddenly, Luna lifted her head and fixed her attention on a slender girl walking near the terminal entrance. Her pale skin and trembling fingers gave her away, and the small insulin pump on her wrist told its own story. At that moment, an elegantly dressed flight attendant approached Keanu. Leaning in with a gentle smile, she said, "Mr. Reeves, I need to check your dog's documents." Keanu calmly retrieved a few folded papers from his pocket and handed them over. Luna is a service dog trained for type 1 diabetes patients. She can detect drops in blood sugar and anticipate episodes. As the attendant examined the documents, Keanu's eyes shifted to the girl that Luna was watching so intently. The girl clutched her coat tightly, and Keanu wondered why Luna was so alert. Taking a deep breath, Keanu realized that this journey was going to bring far more than he'd ever expected. As the plane accelerated, Luna shifted restlessly. Keanu stroked her fur to calm her down. "Calm down, girl. I'm here," he whispered. Beside him, the man in the navy suit sipped his champagne and sneered, "A little peace. I wish this place wasn't turning into a zoo." Keanu didn't reply. Luna's attention was fixed elsewhere, on the young girl 2 rows ahead. Her hands trembled slightly. Her pale skin and erratic breathing made her look unwell. As the plane took off, the cabin swayed gently. Keanu turned his gaze toward the girl. Luna's unease only intensified. Suddenly, she lifted her nose and sniffed the air, stretching toward the girl. "Emily, where's your insulin bag?" Keanu asked. The young girl lifted her head, her eyes blurred. "In my suitcase. In the cargo hold." The suited man rolled his eyes. "Heroics again, Mr. Reeves?" he grumbled. Keanu ignored him. Emily's breathing grew more irregular, and Luna's instincts never failed her. "Medical kit, immediately!" Keanu called out. A flight attendant hurried over with a medical kit as Emily's consciousness began to fade. Her lips turned pale, her breathing shallow, and Luna barked in panic. Keanu quickly pulled an insulin pen from his bag. "Emily, trust me, this will help," he said. Taking a deep breath, before injecting the needle. 10 seconds, 20 seconds. Emily's breathing normalized, and her eyes focused. The surrounding passengers fell silent. This time, the suited man had nothing to say. Keanu patted Luna's head. "Good job, girl." Yet the feeling inside him lingered. This flight was going to be tougher than he'd thought. Emily's color was beginning to return. Luna rested her head on her lap as Keanu paused for a moment, then gently brushed the hair away from the girl's forehead. A concerned flight attendant approached. "How are you feeling now?" Emily nodded. "I'm feeling better. Thank you." Her eyes met Keanu's. "Are you really Keanu Reeves?" Keanu smiled softly. "I suppose I am." The man in the adjacent seat had gone silent. He stared out the window, rubbing the bracelet in his pocket, and let out a deep sigh. Keanu noticed his actions, but said nothing. His eyes remained on Luna. As the dog wagged her tail, the man finally spoke. "Has that dog ever done something like this before?" Keanu shook his head. "Luna is trained to detect illnesses. Blood sugar drops, seizures. She's here to protect her owner." The man fell silent. Then he pulled a small photograph from his pocket. It showed a young woman and a hospital room, the edges worn and frayed. "Sarah," he murmured. Keanu looked up. "Was she your wife?" The man averted his gaze. "She was diabetic too, but she never had a dog like this by her side. If she had, maybe she'd still be here." Keanu retrieved a small card from his pocket and handed it to him. "This is a clinic in Houston where Luna's owner worked. They support diabetic patients and service dogs." The man studied the card, then took a deep breath. A gentle announcement came over the cabin. "We are beginning our descent for landing. Please fasten your seatbelts." Keanu patted Luna's fur and took a deep breath. The end of this flight might just be the beginning of a new chapter in someone's life. As the plane began its descent, the gentle hum in the cabin grew louder. Emily rested her head against her seat, her eyes half closed in slumber, while Luna still rested her head on her lap, her eyes alert. The man in the adjacent seat was studying the card in his hand, his finger tracing over the printed words as a look of deep thought crossed his face. Keanu watched him quietly. Finally, the man looked directly at Keanu. "Why are you interested?" he asked. Keanu shrugged. "Because someone needs to care." The man paused, then spoke in a sincere tone for the first time. "What does that dog mean to you?" Keanu took a deep breath and looked at Luna. Her owner was a doctor who dedicated his life to diabetic patients, but the illness took him away. Luna still carries out her duty. She still wants to help. The man shook his head, then turned toward the window. The plane was gliding over the runway, its wheels nearing the ground. "Sarah, if only she had a dog like that," he murmured, his sentence trailing off. An announcement called for passengers to fasten their seatbelts. As Keanu and the man buckled up, the man continued to grip the card tightly. When the plane touched down, everyone leaned forward slightly as it jolted. Emily opened her eyes, and Luna straightened up. The man turned to Keanu and said quietly, "I'm going to visit that clinic." Keanu offered a faint smile. As they disembarked, the man cast one final glance at Luna. "Maybe one day I'll adopt my own dog." Keanu shook his head. "That day might come sooner than you think." The man clutched the card tightly, fixed his gaze on Keanu, and said softly, "Thank you." As the airplane door opened, he took a deep breath and blended into the crowd. When the terminal doors opened, warm air hit the man's face. He paused for a moment, clutching the card in his hand, and cast one final glance at Keanu before disappearing into the crowd. Keanu walked with Emily and Luna toward the baggage claim. Emily, though still a bit slow, was steadily recovering, and gratitude shone in her eyes. "If it weren't for you and Luna," Emily whispered. Keanu smiled. "She's the real hero," he replied, gently patting Luna's head. In the baggage area, a worried woman scanned the surroundings. Spotting Emily, she hurried over and enveloped her daughter in a tearful embrace. "Oh my God, are you okay?" Emily shook her head. "Thanks to Luna." The woman turned to Keanu and shook his hand. "I can never thank you enough." Keanu modestly bowed his head. "We did what we could." Meanwhile, the man lingered near the terminal doors. He clutched his business card tightly, took a deep breath, and stepped outside with his bag in hand. Although the air was cool, the wind on his face failed to calm the turmoil inside. He inhaled deeply, lifted his eyes toward the lights, then glanced once more at the business card. The address of the Houston clinic was still there. When he entered through a door, he found himself standing before the glass facade of the clinic, where Luna's former owner once worked. As he pushed the door open, a person in a white lab coat greeted him. "How may I help you?" After a brief pause, the man extended his card. "I suppose it's time for me to start a new journey." At that moment, Keanu turned toward Luna at the terminal exit and said, "I think another life has been changed, girl." Luna wagged her tail and rested her head against Keanu's leg. As the terminal doors closed, Keanu and Luna melted into the crowd, leaving behind lives forever transformed. If this heroic journey has inspired you, don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, and share your thoughts in the comments. Stay tuned for more true stories and legendary tales, because the adventure is just beginning.